Welcome to the Screaming Blackbird podcast. In this show, we will talk with military officers and professional leaders to explore Air Force careers and engage in leadership dialogue. The Screaming Blackbird podcast is created by the cadets at Air Force ROTC, Detachment 605 at North Carolina A&T State University. The contents of this show are for educational and entertainment purposes only. They do not contain any official information nor opinions of Air Force ROTC or North Carolina A&T State University.
Appreciate you guys. See ya. See ya. What's up, Ryland? How's it going?
Good, how you doing, Jackson?
Good to see you. Welcome, everybody, back to episode 26 of the Screaming Blackbird podcast. I'm your host, Cadet Jackson Willis, and today I'm joined by Cadet Ryland Brown. How you doing, Ryland?
Good, how you doing?
Doing amazing. We are joined today at the beautiful campus of High Point University. Behind us, we have a brand new statue that just got put up, and so I thought we'd show it off for the viewers and bring Ryland on here as a guest. Today's main topic is going to be about the You Can Fly Scholarship, but we'll also get a deep dive into Ryland's background and why he joined the program and why he's here, what he's looking forward to, and his experiences so far. So I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. This campus is beautiful, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like, A&T is not this nice and this quiet, but like, I love this campus.
Great, we're happy to have you. All right, so for the folks who don't know you, who are watching and listening, can you give a brief 60 to 90 second intro of who you are, where you came from, and how you got here?
All right, I got you. So it's actually a long story. So my name is Ryland Brown. I'm from Chesapeake, Virginia originally. I used to play baseball at Lewisburg Junior College at first. And then I went to Texas Southern University, and now I'm at A&T. So I've been around for a few years, going to all these schools. I'm a junior right now at A&T, political science major. And this is actually my first year in the ROTC department. So it was actually kind of nice that I got the scholarship. Like, he chose me to get the scholarship for the You Can Fly. Yeah, I like working out. I love baseball. I miss it sometimes, but I also like the Air Force ROTC now. It's actually a team environment, which really helps the transition from not playing baseball.
So you said you're a junior in college, but this is your first year doing ROTC.
Yes,
So you're not very traditional route.
No, I'm not.
I did the same thing. I joined in the spring of my junior year, actually, added on some years. So can you kind of talk about how that works with the program?
Okay, so I came as a 250, which is like in between like a freshman and junior. That's how I started off. So I started off with the 100 class, and then once I kind of got the basics of knowledge with the 100s, they sent me to the 200s. So they actually put me up for field training this year to get my EA. Still waiting for that slot. Hopefully I get that.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, I know. So it's kind of like a express version of doing the ROTC program. So instead of doing it in the traditional 4 years, I'm doing it in 3 years. So it's kind of a lot to learn in this like 2 semesters I have to learn, especially with like transferring schools, new environment. So it's a lot, but it's fun. It keeps me busy, and I enjoy that part of it.
Awesome. Yeah, so for folks who don't know, we've explained this in some of the other podcasts, so if you want a full in-depth, I'll put a card up in the top corner of the screen. But basically, Air Force ROTC is a 4-year program. The first 2 years are your GMC years, and the second 2 years are your POC years. It can be squeezed into the 3-year program. That's what Ryland's doing. You only do 1 year of GMC, and then you go and you be a POC for 2 years. Now, it's a lot more competitive. It's competitive in general for 4-year cadets to get an EA slot. But you've shown success, and you've shown rapid and tremendous growth and only doing it in 1 year, still competing in the country against people who have been at it for 2 years.
Yes.
How is the pressure, and how's your feeling, and how are you able to overcome and catch up so fast?
I think it helps since I'm 22 years old, so I'm older. So like I'm competing with like maybe people that don't have the maturity or like the discipline, and coming from a baseball route really helps. Like I use that mindset in ROTC, just like competing within myself. Because you're really not competing with your cadets, you're looking out for your cadets. So I'm just competing within myself, being the best I can be, and that helps me strive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You talked about getting that EA slot. You're waiting on the call.
Yes.
You got put up for PSP, which stands for POC selection process, trying to get access to the last 2 years of ROTC. Can you talk about the EA process and what really goes into getting those scores?
So this year it's changed a little bit because field training is longer, it's 21 days. They're changing the whole process. So usually we would have had our EA slots by now, because you got your EA slot before around this time earlier.
Yeah, it was just a couple weeks ago. This time 2 years ago was I got the call. I was actually on spring break in Florida playing golf when I got the call from Captain Adams. He was like, "Hey, this is about your EA. And I was like, all right, give it to me. And he's like, you got an EA slot. And I was excited. But yeah, it's
Yes. So we're thinking this year is going to be the same. So like during spring break, like all of us, like the FTP class, we're texting each other, like anybody get a call, anybody get a call. None of us got a call during spring break. So somebody called Cadre, they're just like, it's going to be like longer this year because the waivers, there's a lot going on right now within that process. So what goes into that is commander's rankings, your PFA score, which is your physical fitness score, mile and a half, push-ups, sit-ups, and overall your leadership abilities essentially. And I think I excelled in the commander's rankings and your GPA and all that stuff. So I think that's what made them put me up for it.
And you're competing against all the detachments in the country,
In the
right?
country.
So it's not just your classmates, it's everybody?
I'm competing with everybody that's in ROTC. That's a 200 and 250 and 500s as well.
Wow. Okay, so will you explain the difference between 200, 250, and 500?
All right, so a 200 is the traditional route. You did your 100 course, first GMC, and then you did your 200 class, which is the next school year. Your 250s are like what I did. I joined, and I'm doing the 3-year route. So essentially, I only had 2 semesters of my 200 where they had that 200 or 100 year and then the 200 year. It's kind of a long process. The 500 are the people that take an extra year.
Yeah.
So they did the 200 class twice. So they had 2 years of being 200s, whereas I've only had 1 year of being a 200 and doing it one time. So it's a whole bunch of people. It's a long process. Essentially, 100 freshmen, 200 sophomores, 500, a lot of them are juniors, but they're just doing an extra year of school so they can get that EA.
And so for those 500s, it's just an extra year to train, right? Maybe you didn't get that EA slot. Maybe it was super competitive that year. Maybe you take a little bit longer to grow or whatever the case may be. But it's at the commander's discretion basically to offer you that 500 year.
Yep, or the Air Force is not taking that many people that year. You could be a good cadet, but the Air Force only needs to take the top 20 percentile, unlike sometimes they needed like top 90 percentile, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not just like you can be a good cadet and still not get that slot, that EA slot. People look down at being a 500, it's just one extra year of school. Most people don't even graduate in 4 years, is how I look at it. So if you're a 500, you got to graduate in 5 years. You can either do a grad program like you're doing,
Yep.
Or you can just add an extra year to your school. It's all on what you want to do.
Give yourself a minor, double major, or something. There's a lot of creativity and flexibility.
And people, when you get in the Air Force, nobody's going to know, oh, he was a 500. It's not like.
It's not a thing.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing but a thing. Awesome. So you grew up playing baseball
Yes.
competitively for years. Can you talk about how that relates to ROTC?
That actually has a big part because, first of all, baseball was essentially 7 days a week. I mean, we had a day off. Coach said you got the optional day off, but in reality, you still had to be there. And it's kind of like the Air Force. And, like, technically, we only have 2 days of class and PT and things like that. But you're still doing stuff outside of ROTC for the detachment, like whatever Delta you're in, you're doing things like that. Like you're doing a podcast right now on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And the discipline, like waking up at 5 in the morning to do PT, like the days that you don't want to be there. Like every day you don't want to be there, but like you still have to do it. You don't want to do it all the time. And I think it really helped. I came from a military background, so that discipline's kind of been engraved in me. Like I wasn't allowed to sleep in growing up. I remember it would be 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. My parents are waking me up to do nothing. Like I just wake up. They just don't want to be like me in the bed. Like come downstairs, watch TV, do something, go outside. So I think that really helped in the team environment, like trusting your wingman. That's kind of how baseball was. Our roster was like 40 people. How many people do you think we have in there?
We started with 81, I think.
Mm-hmm.
In your class, it was about 29, and it's kind of dwindled down to just under 20 now.
Yeah. So I look at them just like my teammates, like I did during baseball, and that really helps a lot.
So a little bit of baseball and a little bit of family upbringing
Yes.
has really instilled some of those values in you that you're able to translate and reflect and be successful in this program.
Yes, it does.
Great. Well, this program likes to reward people who are go-getters, who want to get some experience, make sure that this is something that they want too. It's a two-way street, right? Can you talk about a few of the opportunities that the Air Force offers to cadets while they're in college?
Well, there's a lot of opportunities. Like if y'all could see our opportunities group chat, they're sending stuff in there all the time. That's actually how I got the You Can Fly scholarship. So there's scholarships for people to learn how to fly. There's scholarships for people to go to jump school. There's scholarship. What school are you going to this year? I know you're going to one of the schools.
Yeah, it's called Combat Survival Training.
Yeah.
So it's up in Colorado. I'll be in the woods learning how to survive and evade the enemy for 2.5 weeks.
See, we've got stuff like that. The Air Force has so many opportunities to go to DC, We had a cadet that went to the Air Force Academy like a couple weeks ago. There's plenty of opportunities the Air Force has to offer. That's not just flying. There's nursing things, there's engineering things. So it's not just all about flying. There's other opportunities the Air Force does have.
Great. And you were awarded one of those opportunities, which is
Yes.
the subject of today's podcast, the You Can Fly Scholarship. Can you talk about that? You briefly said that you said something in a group chat, but how did this come about, and what made you want to apply for this?
So truth be told, what happened was when I first got to A&T this semester and I did the orientation, they were hinting, all of them were talking about like they got the You Can Fly Scholarship. And I was wondering, like, I really had no interest in flying at first, truth be told. But I'm just like, all right, this would be cool to like learn how to fly. Like, how cool would that be? Like, imagine like when I'm older, like I could take someone on a date by flying them somewhere. Like just things like that I'm looking at. Like it's more than just flying. So I'm just like, all right. They put out who wants the You Can Fly Scholarship, who wants to learn how to fly. And I just said I did. I didn't think I was going to get it. I was like, nothing about it. And then like 2 weeks later, I see myself in a group chat. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm actually about to start flying.
Let's go.
So I was like, all right, let me practice. We have a simulator at the detachment. I was like, all right, let me use this a little bit because like I don't want to just go in the air knowing nothing. Mm-hmm. So I used the simulator. Then eventually the money hit, and then I just started flying from there.
Great. Awesome. So you just kind of put your hand up, and then they gave you that opportunity, and you started running.
Yes, that's all I did. Like people just said me, and then whoever he chose, like he picked me a 250. I wasn't expecting to be picked, especially since that was like I was still doing the 100 classes then. I wasn't even with FTP, so I was surprised he picked me, and I was like honored for him to pick me for that.
Great. Roughly how many cadets did he choose?
He chose, I think, around 5 cadets. We each got $2,500 at first, and if you don't spend all your money, then he will kick that money to somebody else if they don't spend it in a certain amount of time. But if you do spend your money on your flight hours, he'll give us another $2,500, so equal around $5,000 per cadet for 5 cadets.
What was the selection process like? Do you know what went into the decision making of who he gives it to?
Truth be told, I have no idea.
I don't either.
Yeah, I have no idea because it was a group. It was probably like 15, 20 people that said I want the scholarship, and he only chose 5. So I don't know if he saw something in us, and then I wasn't even going. I didn't want to rated slot then, so I was just like kind of throwing my hand in there. So then he chose me. I was like, you know what? Let me give it a try. Maybe it's meant to be.
I think that's a huge benefit of the ROTC program is you have so much time before you actually get a job in the Air Force to really get your toes wet and explore a bunch of different career opportunities. So that way you don't sign your life away to do a job for 4 years
that you don't want to do.
What it is. Yeah. So that's a great thing that you were able to raise your hand and get some exposure to this before actually having to sign on the dotted line or pledge your life to something that you don't even know if you like.
That's what I'm saying, especially with like a rated slot. Like that's a 10-year commitment. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're just gonna be flying planes for 4 years. Like you've got a few years of training and then you have 10-year commitment after that. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to just be flying in the Air Force and not like love it. You have to have a passion for it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's great that he gives those opportunities. What was going through your head before you flew when you got this award? Were you like, oh crap, this is real now? Or were you excited to do it?
I was so scared. And then when I got there, it didn't help because like I didn't realize how old planes were.
Yeah.
So like I get there and we're flying a plane. I'm like, when was this plane built? He's like, it's in 1975. I'm just like, 1975? Like this plane is old. He was like, oh, it goes through all these inspections and stuff. So my brain was going. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here the first day and I'm gonna let him fly the plane. I'm just gonna see what he does. But that is not how it turned out at all. He actually had me, my first flight, he took off for me and we were up in the air and he's just like, take control of the flight because I've did a simulator before. And of course he right there, he has the controls and I'm up there like literally just flying around. I'm just like, it feels like unreal, honestly, like a fever dream. I told my friends, I'm like, dude, I was just flying a plane. They're just like, they let you fly a plane. I'm like, I was just flying a plane. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So does the detachment have planes themselves or do they send you to somebody else? Is it contractors or is it the military that's helping you guys fly? Who are you working with?
So what they do is, so they give you the $2,500 and you choose what flight school. So you can choose whatever flight school you want. I chose Elon Aviation because I can fly to Greensboro and that's the closest. And then the government will send that money to, the detachment will send the money to the school. So I'm not technically getting the money, they're just putting it on that account for the aviation. And then they have all the planes, you're renting out with them. Honestly, the detachment just sends the money there and then you go there and fly. It's not really involved with the detachment.
Sweet. So you're in charge of scheduling their flights and everything like that, but it's not like they just give you a lump sum and say, go fly.
Yeah, it's just like they send $2,500, they put a credit on your account. I'm in charge of scheduling, I'm in charge of where I want to go. I'm in charge if I want to get ground hours or flight hours. I'm in charge of all of that. It's just like I have to use that money within a given period of time before they give it to somebody else because I'm not using that money. Other cadets could.
Yeah. That's what I love, is that they reward people who are go-getters and putting their hand out there, wanting to get some of those opportunities. And it's good for you to practice that now before you become a POC, because the ROTC program is pretty cadet-led, especially when it comes to training for Leadership Lab and PT and all sorts of different opportunities. Is they give us a lot of leeway. They're just like, hey, you're the podcast officer. Do whatever you want. So I got to come up with things and create things. So it's great that they're starting that so early, because that's how it's going to be in the Air Force. You're going to be put in charge of airmen, like people's lives. And so you got to learn how to be successful and have time management and all those skills now. And so it's great that you're.
I will say the attachment really helps with that, because like even as a 200, and like I'm not POC, but like we still have a lot of responsibilities. We still have to do things for our whoever's in charge of us. So it's like it's teaching us how to use like the Air Force Training Command. That's what I really like about the attachment. I think that's how things should go. The person at the top shouldn't be like micromanaging everything. It should be the people that are actually within who know each other, I think.
100%. You take off, he lets you fly. How'd you do in your first lesson?
All right, so my first flight was actually, this is a crazy story, it was raining. Of course, my first flight is raining. He's like, all right, it shouldn't be raining that bad. We get up there, it's not raining. Then like, as soon as we get up, it's raining. Turbulence is bad, and this is not like your Boeings. This is a small plane. And like, you can feel every nick and bump when you're up there in those small planes. And I'm like, honestly, I'm like this. Like, I'm tight, I'm nervous. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm like, what did I do? So I was really nervous. I thought I did fine. The simulator actually, believe it or not, really helped. Just because like the controls are pretty much all the same. Of course, it's not like simulator has more up-to-date stuff, whereas our planes don't have all the digital things. But yeah, it was fun. I was honestly glad to land my first time. Like I was like, I'm ready to get like back on the ground.
Yeah.
But like the more I fly, like the more I get used to it, the more comfortable I get, the more maneuvers I can do, and the more like controls he gives me with landing and taking off and things like that.
Sweet. How old's your instructor?
My instructor is probably only like 28 years old.
Yeah, mine was young too.
Yeah, he's so chill. He graduated from Liberty. Because Liberty, he always wanted to fly. He didn't want to like spend that much money. So Liberty has their own aviation program. So you can use your student loans to learn how to fly there.
Whoa.
So essentially, like, it's better to do that than to like take out regular loans, because student loans, the interest is lower. And he has all of his license he got in 4 years at Liberty as a student.
That's sick.
So that's pretty cool. And right now he needs like 700 hours for one more thing. And I'm just like, that's a lot of flying. But he loves it. I love it. He's a cool guy. He kind of lets me pick and choose where I want to go. Yesterday, me and another cadet, we flew to Liberty, actually, his old alma mater.
Yeah.
We flew there, we landed, and then like he ran the car, and we went to go get food. Like, that was my flight yesterday, seeing the mountains, going to go get food, and then we took back off. And in 2 weeks, we're going to Wilmington, because I want to see the beaches. I was like, listen, I want to go see the beaches, fly around the beach. He's like, all right, let's go. He's just down for anything, so I like my instructor.
Getting some cross countries in.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a misconception when I first got the scholarship and started flying too. I thought it was going to be some retired folk or a lot of old heads that are teaching us that are a little bit out of touch or out of date, but it's actually a lot of young people. And so I now know that the pipeline or the blueprint for becoming a pilot in the commercial world, becoming a private pilot, becoming a passenger pilot, is you got to pay for your license, but then you become an instructor at one of these places like Elon Aviation, and you get paid to teach other people, but you're getting yourself hours.
Exactly.
And you have to get those hours so you can get your certification on whatever it is to move on to the next step. Get a new certification, become a dual engine or whatever it is. And so that's why you see a lot of young instructors, is because they're trying to get their hours up so that way they can move on to the next stage.
Because my pilot, my instructor, he actually either wants to do something with like the FBI or military government type stuff, or he wants to do commercial. But he said like most of those jobs, like people that work for the FBI and things like that and commercial are flying, are former military.
Okay.
So he said like he needs more flight hours and more, like so he can be more competitive against the military people, military veterans that have that experience.
Yeah.
So that's essentially why he's doing it, until he can move to the next chapter of his life, essentially.
Yeah, so that was my misconception. What was one of your misconceptions, what you thought about flying was, and then when you showed up, it actually really wasn't the same at all.
All right, so first I thought a cross country, they're talking about cross country flights. I thought it literally meant like you flew across the country.
I did too.
And then I was like, I asked him, I was like, how are we gonna take a cross country in like 2 hours? Like, we can't go across the country in that long. He was like, well, cross country is like you fly, you land, you get gas, and then you fly back essentially. You just have to go like far enough to get gas. I'm like, that was a huge misconception, because he was like, I'm doing a cross country. I'm like, where are we going? Like, in these small flights. Another misconception was, I thought flying was like, I thought it was gonna be boring, not gonna lie. I thought like being up in the air, like with nothing, like no cars or nothing, like not gonna be that fun. But like, honestly, it's like a real thrill. Like, sometimes the turbulence, truth be told, is like a little thrill, because it makes you like, dang, I'm really in the air. Because when you're flying at that speed and there's no bumps, essentially you feel like you're not moving. But when you feel the turbulence, you're like, dang, I'm in control. Like, that's the thrill. Like, I honestly, like, I don't want to say I like the turbulence, but like, I like it a little bit.
It's a realization. It's different coming from a sim to actually feeling the G's when you're turning and pulling or getting turbulence is the biggest difference between sims and that. And it makes it real.
And then landing the sim and landing in real life, I think that's the only thing that's like kind of a bigger difference. Because like when you're landing in real life, like you have to feel it. Like in the sim, like you don't really feel it in the sim because you don't feel the bumping, you don't like all that. That's why like landing, like it's honestly the thing I'm struggling with. Like he's really trying to teach me, because like that and the sim are completely two different things.
Yeah, landing's definitely one of the harder things, and it's the biggest difference, the least similar thing between the sim and actually flying.
Yes.
That's interesting. So you said they called it cross country. You didn't know what that meant. Was there any other jargon or kind of a different lingo that was up there that you heard and didn't know what it meant?
The comms.
Yeah.
when air traffic controllers are mean sometimes.
They are.
They are up there mean. Like they get at it. I'm just like, because you can hear all of the comms, you can hear people talking.
Yeah.
And then my instructor, like, he's like, watch, this guy's about to get fussed out. And then like I'm listening, I'm like, yeah, that controller's mad. And truth be told, the language up there is like, that's harder than flying. Truth be told, like listening to the comms, and you got to write down the stuff so fast, because they talk really fast, and everything's like in letters. And you have to say everything exactly perfect. That is the hard. That's definitely a problem. That and landing are the two hardest things about flying: the comms and landing.
Yeah, they want to restrict the amount of time that you're on the radio waves, so that way other people can talk and stuff too. So everything's shortened. It's not even your entire tailcode. It's like the last four. Hey, you, it's me. I'm this, going this way. What do I do? And then they do it that way. But it's not. It's like a foreign language.
Yeah. And then like listening to the weather. Like I still don't understand the weather. Like he's like, write this down. I'm writing it down. Like what? I'm looking at his notes. I'm like, let me just copy his notes, and then I'm gonna get it later. I'm like, I don't know what the weather is outside. It's like 5-2, Lima. I'm just like, how is that the weather? It's just.
So for folks who want to be pilots but can't afford it or realize that there are some barriers to entry, it's not a cheap hobby. The fact is that you have the You Can Fly scholarship, which is super nice. Was there any other barriers or any equipment you had to buy or anything to get ready for your first flight?
I didn't have to get anything. Everything's kind of provided, but like renting this stuff is like probably the most expensive part. Like renting the planes, like I see the receipts, like $400 to rent the plane out, and then you have like technically like pay for your instructor, and then you're still technically getting ground hours even if you are flying like that. 15 minutes you're talking to them, you're getting ground hours. The headsets are included in the rent. Like flying's expensive, and I didn't realize that until like I look at the receipt and I'm just like, dang, that money's going fast.
It is, but all that's covered in the scholarship.
All that is covered in the scholarship.
Great, that's great that you don't have to buy a headset or have to do anything else, that the scholarship pretty much covers everything. Do you have your own logbook?
I do, I have my own logbook. And we also have a Excel document that what we put all of our flight hours in, and then we can calculate the money, and then we also can we put it in our wings account. So when you're up for your rated slot, the Air Force can see, the board can see how many flight hours you have.
Okay. How does that help you? Why do they want to see that?
Well, rated slot is very competitive because you're going against the Academy. They have first dibs, obviously. And then after that is all of the ROTC people, and flight hours. If you already have some flight experience, they're more likely to choose you because less of a learning process.
Okay. What else goes into your score that the rated board looks at when they're picking who gets a pilot slot and who doesn't get a pilot slot?
So the rated score, it has a lot to do with your commander's ranking, your flight hours. You have tests you have to take.
Okay.
Your like AOQT, your flight tests, your field training, ranking,
yeah.
which is a big thing. People forget about that. Your GPA, it's a whole process. Your physical fitness scores, it's a lot to do.
So it's super cumulative. It's not just
Yes.
like whoever can afford the most flight hours gets
No,
it.
it's not just
That's
one
just
thing.
one section of a giant list of things.
Like you can have 80 flight hours and your commander's ranking is not good and you didn't do good in field training and you might not get picked for that pilot slot.
Okay. So you really have to be super well-rounded.
In everything, yes, you do.
Interesting. Well, when you have other cadets who are going through it at the same time, are you talking to the other people who got the scholarship and what's their experience been like?
Yeah, so I am talking to a lot of them. A lot of them, they did their stuff before me. So I was busy a lot during the semester and I couldn't do it. So they did their stuff way before me and I wasn't communicating with them as much. Mm-hmm. And now, since I'm doing it, they're almost out of their money. So they're kind of just like waiting for more money. I talked to Pena. He said he enjoyed the flying. He just does cross country. He's like, he's got to find some more time to actually be able to fly.
Yeah.
And they're enjoying it. They're loving it too.
Good. So everyone's having a blast.
Yes.
Was everybody else like you? They were like, didn't really know that they wanted to be a pilot and just kind of threw their hand up, or were some people more dead set?
Some people were dead set. Like Pena, he really wants to be a pilot.
Okay.
I know like three people that got the scholarship really want to be pilots. I know people that have the scholarship that don't want to be pilots. It's just like enjoying flying. Like, why not? Like, if they're going to give us this opportunity, how many people can say they like flew a plane?
Yeah,
like, truth be
free.
told, for free. Like, they pay nothing to fly a plane. So that's just a cool experience in general. But some people are dead set on flying. Yeah.
Good. Good. Okay, so it gives some cadets who are dead set on it and some that may or may not be interested in it. This is a way for them to find out for themselves.
Uh-huh.
So you said that it helps you be more competitive for a rated slot. Mm-hmm. But what have you seen as the impact, really, that this opportunity has been on you and pretty much everybody else who's gotten it?
Honestly, the impact's like the experience. Like, it is literally a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And, like, when you're flying, there's no better view than, like, you looking over, like, you just see, like, the mountains or you see the waters, the lakes. So, like, honestly, it's, like, peaceful. It's, like, I don't want to say it's kind of, like, relaxing in the sort. Like, honestly, like, being up in the air is just you, the clouds, and all those things.
Yeah. So now that you've got this opportunity, and you're going through your flight, are you finished or you still have a little bit more money left? I know you flew yesterday.
No, yeah, so I still have more money left. I'm gonna try to get to 12 hours. I'm gonna do another cross country in a couple weeks. We're actually going to Wilmington, like, because I want to see the beaches. I told my instructor, I'm like, listen, we saw the mountains, we saw the lakes. It's like, it's time to see like the ocean. And then he's all right, and like he was talking about how their airport, like wherever you take off, you can actually like go over the ocean for a little bit and like come back, and you have enough time to do that. So that's my next flight I'm gonna do. And then I have a couple more local ones I'll be able to do. So I'll probably have like 6 hours of flight hours left with the money that I have, and then hopefully I get the extra 2,500 after.
You're gonna fly over the ocean?
Yeah.
Is that gonna be scary?
Yeah, I think that's gonna be it's gonna be a fun and scary experience.
Yeah.
Because it's just like there's nothing but blue. Like, it's gonna be fun though.
Like an emergency, you can't land in the water. Like, what do? You just try to glide and head towards land, or what?
In all reality, like in an emergency, in most spots, like there's not many spots you can just land anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. Like, say somebody was flying over high points, like where are they gonna land? You know what I mean? So I'd look at it like that. Planes are honestly the safest route. Like, those planes have like hundreds of hours of work like done every single year to make sure they're safe to fly in those inspections.
Okay, good. So you're getting your cross countries in, hanging out with your instructor. Is it always just you or your instructor, or are you allowed to bring other people along for the flight?
So we can bring other people as long as we have to make sure like the weight's okay. Like I said, so yesterday I bought Christian Johnson. He's another cadet at our detachment when we went to Lynchburg, and the weight was heavy, but we were still good. So it made it that was my first time with somebody else, and I thought it was gonna be big of a difference. And like our takeoff, it took us a lot longer to climb because we were heavier. So there is a difference when you have people with you, but you can take somebody with you. They just sit in the back seat. They have their headphones in. They're listening to the comms. He was actually in the back seat sleep until we're landing because we got a little turbulence. I'm just like, you're back there sleeping. I'm flying this plane. Like, get up, take pictures, like enjoy it. Like, well, yeah, you can take people.
So even if you aren't awarded the scholarship, you could ride along with others and be able to at least experience being in a plane that small and listen in and learn a lot without actually flying?
Yes, you can. Honestly, you can probably learn more from listening. Like, I haven't had the time. I haven't flown with anybody yet. But I do want to take some flights where I'm not flying so I can just try to understand the comms. Just because, like, honestly, like, when I'm flying right now, I'm so zoned in on flying. Sometimes I can't hear the comms. I'm, like, tunnel vision on all of the, like, the instruments because yesterday we flew like an older plane and our instruments weren't digital. So I'm looking at 5 different instruments instead of 2, which kind of confused me a little bit, and then try to listen to the comms. So I just want to fly like just listening to the comms to see if I can like try to understand what's going on.
Okay. So yesterday you flew a different plane than you flew the first few times?
Yes.
Okay, what was that?
I flew a Piper this time. I usually fly a Cessna, but this Piper was old. This Piper was, I think this was like 72. The instruments, none of them were digital. We had to like set the compass manually. We had to set everything manually.
Yeah.
Where I'm used to the digital, it was honestly a big difference of all those different instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of differences, the Piper, if I'm not mistaken, is an underwing, and the Cessna is an overwing. Was there a big difference there?
So yeah, with the underwing, honestly, you can see more. So like, there's way more. Your view's better because the wing is not like right at you.
Yeah.
Whereas the Cessna, you can't see as much. But I think I like the Cessna better. I think just
Really?
because I like the Cessna because the instruments in it.
Yeah.
But I like the Piper because you can see better. So like, if you could just put them together, that would be my ideal plane to fly.
Interesting. I had the opposite experience actually. So I, for the most part, flew the Piper, but I also flew the Cessna a few times. And I personally like the underwing better. I like the visibility, being able to see better. And then I just like takeoffs and landings better on the underwing design. I feel like the Cessnas, kind of you get thrown around. I feel like you get affected by wind a lot more.
Yeah, but I will say the only reason I can't like be 100% sure is because I was with somebody this time. So the weight was different.
True.
So like climbing, like I was like, gosh, are we ever going to get to 6,000 feet after climbing? Like by the time we got to 6,000 feet, it was like, it was time for us to come back down.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm just like, I can't even like enjoy it because I'm trying to climb the whole time. I can't even enjoy the view. So I do want to fly the Piper one more time with like just me and my instructor again.
There you go.
Just to see the true difference.
That way it's a bit more comparable to your times in the Cessna, and you can actually make an accurate
Exactly.
comparison. Okay, cool. Well, I'd be excited to hear that opinion and see which one you decide afterwards. For the folks who have never been in a small training aircraft like that, or maybe never flown ever before and are trying to visualize it, how does it compare to something like a car, driving a car? Is it similar or is it like completely different?
Honestly, it's more, all right, the takeoff and landing is not similar. But like when you're in the air, essentially, like, I don't want to say it's like, flying is not the hard part. The hard part is like takeoff, landing, and like listening to the comms. Okay. Like when you're in the air, like there's no traffic. You don't worry about stop signs. You don't got to worry about like somebody cutting you off. It's just you. Like it's kind of like, it's like you're in charge up there. Like it's just you, your instructor, and if you're by yourself, it's just you because some people fly by themselves. So imagine you're driving a car as fast as you can and there's nobody around you. That's essentially how I would compare it to. Like you're just driving.
Nice. Sounds peaceful.
Yeah, it is.
When was your least peaceful time in the aircraft? You ever been like real scared or had a moment that was really difficult and kind of shocked you?
Yeah, so like I said, my first flight, it rained. So the turbulence was terrible. And as we're landing, we kind of like, we dove a little bit, and like that feeling like your stomach, like it's like you're on a roller coaster, your stomach drops, like you kind of lift out your seat a little bit and like you feel like you're free falling.
Yeah.
And my instructor, I was like, what's going on? You know, it's my first time flying a small plane like this. He was like, it's fine, it's a little bit of turbulence, you're good. That was probably the scariest time I had flying. But after that, like luckily I haven't had any more times like that.
It's wild how quickly you get accustomed to it. Because when I was flying, my first ever flight was in Knoxville, Tennessee. I did a discovery flight, and takeoff was like hard, but like not scary. Landing was super scary. I got so nervous because you start coming down and it's just like your depth perception, the ground comes at you kind of fast and you just want to pull, like, you just want to yank back. And the guy's like, relax, just keep it off the ground and hold center line and hold it on the horizon. And
let it land itself. Yeah.
But the first time is not like that.
Because like when you're landing, like you feel like your nose is like about to hit the ground. You feel like you're about to hit the ground like hard.
Yeah.
But like in reality, you're still probably 1,000 feet in the air. But like your depth perception, you think like you're about to hit this because like we're in Elon, it's like a little mountain that you have like where the landing strip is at first. And like you feel like you're going to just land right there. But in reality, you just glide right over it and then landing's fine.
Yeah, I think, well, when I first flew, didn't know about ground effect. And so I thought I was going to fall at the same rate. But once you get like pretty close to the ground effect gives you like a little bit more lift.
Yeah.
And so that like kind of keeps you off the ground too, and you got to fight it. And so I was real nervous. I was going to crash and burn on my first
Yeah,
one.
like landing is scary.
But right after that first flight, I mean, my second landing ever wasn't scary anymore. So it's weird like how quickly you can get accustomed to it. And it's helpful having an instructor right next to you who can like, talk you through it, calm you down. And if they're calm, it makes you calm. But how has it been with your instructor leading? Are they giving you a whole lot of flexibility in the air? Or are they like, you have to do this, then this, then this?
So my instructor is really flexible because he's kind of like me. Like we both kind of get bored doing like the same thing. Like if you're just flying straight and then coming back every single time, like in reality, I'm not learning anything. So like he has me doing all types, like he'll perform a maneuver and then he's like, I'll watch him do it. He's like, okay, now do it. And I'm just like, all right, why not? Let's try it. He's not going to let you, he's not going to let anything happen because he's right there. And then like, truth be told, like most of the stuff, like it's just try it. Like, because he's right there with me the whole time. So I'm like, all right, if you believe in it, let's go, let's do it.
With all the different lessons that you're learning, whether it be stalls or banking, turns, or anything, what's your favorite thing to practice or drill?
Honestly, I like the feeling of stalling. I don't know why. Like that feeling, like feels like you're on a roller coaster. Like it feels like you're just like, it literally like it's like you're dropping the whole time on a roller. That's what it feels like. But essentially, like you're just stalling. That's probably the most fun thing to do, just because like the adrenaline rush you get.
That's scary.
Yeah.
The first time was scary. Even
but
the
then
second time
comes adrenaline rush, doesn't it?
Yeah. My instructor, I was flying, and my instructor was like, "Look out there," and so I look out, and he pulls my power out. He's like, "Oh, your engine just quit. What are you gonna do?" And so I'm like, "All right, fly the plane, do the checklist, then communicate, look for a field." Like you just start running through the checklist, and it kind of becomes second nature after a while. Yeah, so I actually rode in the back with another cadet who has the You Can Fly scholarship, Cadet Emerson Siefkin, and he was in the front, I was in the back just hanging out. And he said it was an instructor's idea, but I don't really believe him. I think it was him. He kind of pulled back, and so I was like, why are we pulling G's? And then he pushed forward, and I just start floating up, and I was like, what is going on? And it's fun. It's able to have fun and realize how to gain control after losing control like that, because a lot of things can go wrong in the air.
And you have to be prepared for it.
You have to.
You have to.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It's that or crash and burn. Right?
Literally.
Oh, unreal. Cool. It's good that the Air Force is empowering cadets and trying to give them as many opportunities as possible. Cool. Well, in the time that you've been flying so far, do you have any other cool stories that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I haven't, like, I feel like I haven't had any cool stories. I still feel like it's cool, like, just to be able to fly, like, just take pictures up there, tell people you're flying. Like, I'm just like, one of my friends live in Lynchburg, actually. Yeah. And, like, I called him before. I'm like, hey, like, come get lunch with us. He's like, what do you mean come get lunch with you? Like, you're in Greensboro. I was like, I'll be there in an hour and a half. He was like, how are you going to get there in an hour and a half? I was like, you'll see. And then, like, we got there. He sees, like, my instructor of the flight thing. He was like, how'd you get here? I was like, we flew. And, like, he was like, there's no way you just flew to Lynchburg. I'm like, yeah, I came to see you. He was like, all right, whatever. When next time you coming back? I was like, I'll probably go Wilmington next, but we'll see.
Ain't nothing but a thing.
Yep.
Sweet. As we wrap up towards the end, we want to give our listeners and our watchers opportunities to get their questions answered, whether it be from cadets or officers or enlisted or whoever it may be, our guests on the podcast. We've got 2 listener questions for you today. The first listener question is, being not having a traditional entrance into the ROTC program, how has your transition been from being a little bit older but working with cadets who are 18, 19 years old?
Honestly, it is an adjustment, especially when I was with the 100s. I kind of felt like I was really old. Like, I'm only 22 years old, but I felt like I was like an old man because, like, they're 18 years old. They're fresh out of high school. I've been in college for 4 years now, so, like, I'm about to graduate. They're just getting in. So that was different in the discipline side of things, because they're not used to, like, people telling them what to do. They're used to, like, being home and doing that stuff, but now they're free to, like, do what they want. And they weren't making sure they're getting stuff done. So it was a lot different, but I got used to it, obviously. I'm friends with some of them still now, even though I'm a 200. I love my 200 class too, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a challenge at first, but I got used to it. I overcame it.
Y'all pretty tight-knit now, huh?
Yeah, we are.
You started with a lot, you lost a few, but y'all have really come into your own. You had the storming, the foreman, but you're nearing the end now. Like, y'all are working as a unit.
Yeah, and it's like, it was so many. I think, honestly, since so many people, like, left FTP, whichever, like, Dartmouth qualified or whatever happened, I think it made us closer, because just, like, dang, that could have happened to us. Like, but now we're here together. Like, so it's kind of like bonding by trauma, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
I guess that's what you'd call it. Like, so we bonded more because it's just like it could have been one of us that was gone, but we're still here and we have bonded well this semester.
I'm sure some of our audience who've gone through either BMT or OTS or something can relate to the trauma bonding
Yeah.
from the military. That's great. Well, our second listener question is about ROTC in general. And so it's kind of an unfair question to ask you, but I'll ask you your opinion, and I've got something to say afterwards. They say, how does ROTC take 4 years to teach you what you can learn in 12 weeks at OTS? And so can you speak about the benefit of having 4 years to develop someone before they become an officer instead of just having 3 months?
I think 4 years is like, it's like a growing period. Like, it's a big learning period. You have a time like to essentially like being like I don't want to say like like a fake Air Force essentially.
Yeah.
It's not the real Air Force. It's like the fake Air Force are like, you know, in the detachment. So like you learn all of the, like you're learning drill. You're learning how the chain of command works. And yes, in OTS it does teach you that, but most people in OTS are older in that sense. Whereas people in ROTC, those people are 18 years old starting. I did the untraditional route. I was 21 years old when I started, but most people are 18 years old, and that's helping them develop from their freshman year in college to their senior year of college. I think 4 years is needed for ROTC. I don't think it should be a 2-year program with ROTC just because the growing time that we do need. And it's not every single day. Like OTS, you're there the whole time. Whereas ROTC, we still have our regular lives to live. Like we were still part of clubs and organizations outside of the detachment. We're still students. We're still hanging out. We're still having fun. It's not like we're drilled the entire time. It's like a longer process to get what we need to get done.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you make a good point about we're still college students, right? The ROTC program is my favorite program because it teaches a balance between personal life, between ROTC, between your academics. We have cadets that are D1 athletes, and so being able to balance that time is really important. It's something you have to learn because when you're on active duty, you got to manage your family, you got to manage your loved ones, you got to manage your job, and that's something that can't really be taught super quickly. I think the benefits of ROTC really outweigh the downfalls of it taking so long to train. It's a very low consequence environment for cadets to get hands-on experience, making decisions, making mistakes, and then learning from those mistakes, right? So you don't want to just put someone in a $100 million jet and be like, go, or only teach them for 3 months and do it. And OTS does do a good job of teaching them, but I love the ROTC program because it teaches cadets to have a balance in their work life and their personal life, and it gives them ample opportunities to lead without the world crumbling if they make a poor decision.
I agree. And then you have 3 years to figure out like what you want to do. Like whereas, you know, OTS, most of those people, they already know what they want to do. Most of them want to be doctors, or do whatever they want to do. But I think ROTC gives people the opportunity to like figure out what they really want.
Yep.
They're just not just throwing them out there like, hey, you're an officer after 12 weeks. Like, do you really want to do this? You got 3 years to decide for your contract, 4 years for your commission.
And most cadets are in their formative years. I mean, you and I are older when we started, but we're still in our formative years too.
Yeah.
So it's great for the Air Force to give cadets multiple years to form and make decisions on what they want to do before they're actually thrown into the Air Force and sent to another country to serve our country, right?
Like, I'm learning how to fly. If I went OTS, I wouldn't be learning how to fly.
Exactly. So lots of opportunities. That's amazing. Hopefully that answers your question. A little bit of difference. I think both can be beneficial to the Air Force, but they both have their own benefits. So I hope that answers your question. Awesome. Well, as we wrap up here, I want to give you the opportunity to leave any parting shots, words of wisdom for our listeners, our audience, to take with them as they go on.
If you're looking into the ROTC program, choose Air Force, best branch. That's everybody. But besides that, live life, have fun. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Amazing. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Ryland, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jackson.
For everybody else, that is going to conclude episode 26 of the Screaming Blackbird podcast. As always, I'm your cadet host, Cadet Jackson Willis, and I'm joined today by Ryland Brown.
Sir.
We will see you.
Oh.
Gosh, it's so nice out here.
It is.